Hello, James Patterson here. In this video, we're going to have a look at some amazing brush effects in Affinity Photo. This is my starting portrait here, so we're going to use a range of different brush effects to rough up our portrait, and we're going to add a textured effect behind her. We're going to eat away at the subject using layer masks and brushes, and we're going to add a few splashes of colour by creating our own custom brushes. So let's get cracking. This is our starting photo here, and I'm going to begin here by isolating her. So I want to put her on a separate layer so that I can add effects behind her. So I'm going to grab the selection brush from the Affinity toolbar over here. Notice I'm in the Affinity Photo persona, and I'm just going to start by painting over my subject using the selection brush. You can see how the tool very quickly snaps on to the edges of the figure. Now I can click refine up here to refine my selection here, and I'm just going to increase the border width here to increase the area of refinement and try and pick up all of these hairs around the head here. So let's increase the border width slightly more, and we'll see how that looks. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll choose output to mask down here and then hit apply. So now you can see I have my subject here against a transparent backdrop. Next, I'm going to make a new pixel layer, so I can go to my layers panel over here and click the add pixel layer icon, and I'm going to drag that pixel layer to the bottom of the layer stack. Then I can go to edit fill, and I'm just going to fill it with white. So I'll just choose a white color here and then hit apply. Now I'm going to make another new pixel layer, and I'm going to paint some textured effects on this layer here to give me more of a textured backdrop. So with that layer highlighted, I can grab my brush tool from the toolbar over here, or I can hit B for it, and then I can go to my brushes panel. Now if you can't see all of these different panels here in your Affinity display, then you'll just need to go to the view drop down here, and if you go to studio you can choose to reset studio, and that will bring up all the relevant panels you need for this. Now we'll go to the brushes panel, and at the top here we have this drop down that allows access to these different brush sets, and I'm going to use the texture set for much of this project. So I'll highlight the texture set, and you can see that gives me a range of different grungy brushes. So I could perhaps try this grunge 5 brush. I'll also go to my color picker here, and I'll choose a nice grey tone for my brush tip, something around there I think. And then let's go back to our brushes. I could perhaps also lower the opacity of my brush tip up here in the tool options at the top. So I'll bring that down to around about 35. And then I can use the left and right square bracket keys on my keyboard to resize my brush tip. And notice how we get this nice preview of our brush effect. So we can see exactly what's going to happen before we start painting. So now you can see as I click around the image or click and drag, you can see we get this really cool textured effect to my background. So I can just quickly whiz over the background like this to add that lovely texture effect. And I could also, of course, experiment with different brush tips. Let's perhaps choose this one here. This one is called Brush 2. And again, I could perhaps lower the opacity and again, just start painting around the image to add different brush effects like this. Let's try another brush. Let's perhaps go for, we could go for this one here. This is Grunge 1. Again, I'm going to use a low opacity just so I can build up my brush effect. I could also experiment with brush blend mode. So I could go to the blend mode drop down here and perhaps choose the multiply blend mode. And that means that as I paint, we kind of get a darker effect over the image as we go. So I'll paint around the image here to add in a few more bits of texture like this, and I'm happy with that. So now with that done, what I'd like to do next is use these grunge brushes in a different way to actually eat away at the edges of my subject here. So to do this, I'm going to highlight the mask thumbnail on my top layer there. Then I could perhaps try one of these Grunge 3 or Grunge 4 brushes here. So I could perhaps go for Grunge 3, And this time I'm going to go to my color picker here and make sure I'm painting with black, because when we're painting on a layer mask, we can use black to hide parts of the layer and white to reveal them. So by painting with black, we're going to be hiding parts of our subject here and revealing the background underneath. So you can see how this works as I start painting around the figure here. So I'll just start painting over the side of the body here, and you can see how we're able to eat away at our subject like this. So I could just quickly carry on painting around the subject like this and come in from different angles, and this might take a while to build this effect up. You can see here how I'm able to just quickly eat away at her, and I could again try different brush tips here. So let's go for this one, and again start painting around the edges like this to kind of eat away at the subject. So this might take a little bit of time. I'm going to jump forwards to a point where I've continued in the same way by painting on my layer mask. So now I've finished painting in my scatter effect around the edges of the portrait, and if we just have a quick look around, you can see how this is working around my image. And if I toggle that layer off and on, you can see the effect that has. Next, I'd like to create some ink splashes around the backdrop, and I can do this using a brush that I've made myself. So if you'd like to make your own brushes, I'll show you quickly how that's done. If we go to this image here, you can see I've just got an array of ink splashes here against a white background. Now, let's say I want to turn this splash here into a brush. The first thing I need to do is remove the white backdrop so that it's against transparency. So to do this, I can go to my channels panel down here, and I can right click the composite blue channel and load to pixel selection. Then I can hit backspace to remove it, and Command or Control and D to deselect. Then I can grab my crop tool and I can just crop in to this area here. Now with that done, I need to export this as a PNG. So I can go to File, Export, and then I can choose the PNG option here and hit Export. Now I won't do it because I've already got a PNG file pre-prepared. So once you've exported the PNG, what we can do next is go to our Brushes panel here. We can click the little flyout menu here, and we can use the New Intensity Brush option here to create our new brush from that PNG file. Now you might also want to go to create new categories so that you can house your newly created brushes in a separate category, and then you can choose to rename the category, and we can call this just ink. And then we can go to New Intensity Brush and load in our PNG file, and you can see there are a few other PNG files that I've created here. I've also created a brush set that you can use immediately. So if you want to use the brush set, all you need to do is click that flyout menu there and choose to import the brushes. So let's highlight that PNG file and open it, and you can see now it appears as a new brush within my ink category here, ready to be used in the same way as any other brush. So let's go back to my main image now, and we'll try out a few different splashes around my image. So what I'll do is make a new layer. I'm going to make it below my portrait layer, so below this background layer here. So I'll highlight the layer below, click the add new pixel layer icon here to give me a new pixel layer. Then I can load in my brush set. So I'm going to import my brushes and just import my ink splash brushes set. And then I can grab a brush and I can use it in the same way as any other brush. So I could perhaps change the size. I could choose a color here. So I've got a color that I quite like here. If I input 295, 99 and 63, that gives me this lovely vibrant pink, and then I can just dab around the background with this pink color to add it in. Now I might want to change the rotation of my brush tip. I can go to my brushes here and I can double click my chosen brush, and then I can use this rotation slider here to change the rotation of my brush tip. I could also perhaps up the size and close it, and then you can see now I've got a different rotation for my brush like this. Again, let's try another rotation. We'll turn it around slightly more and have it coming in from this side here like this. So you can see how I'm able to add in these different splash effects in the background. Let's make another new layer, and I'm going to add in a few more using a different color. So let's perhaps choose a different ink splash brush here, and let's choose a different color. This time I'm going to go for 189, 77, 73. And that gives me a lovely vibrant blue color this time. And then I'll add in a few more little dabs around my image like this. And you can see now how we're getting this lovely effect in the background. And because we're painting behind our subject layer here, these splashes of color are appearing behind her. And I'm happy with that. So now I think we're nearly there. There's one other thing I'd like to do, which is bring in this image here of these kind of stars. And this is an image I found on the NASA Images website, which is a great source for rights-free images of stars and supernovas and things like that. So I can hit Command or Control and C to copy that, go back to my main image, and Command or Control and V will paste it in. I'll drag that layer to the very top of the layer stack, and I'll change the blend mode of the layer to screen, and then I can use the move tool and just tweak the positioning, and you can see how that just gives me that lovely kind of glow effect around my image like that. And there we have it. I think we're pretty much there. I could perhaps finish off by merging a layer. So I'm going to go to my layers panel here and go for a merge visible to merge a new layer at the top of my layer stack here. And I'm going to take this into the tone mapping persona here. And I can use the controls over here just to add a slightly more intense tonal effect. So I'm going to go for this option down here. We could perhaps try cool, or maybe we could go with dramatic. Yes, that's looking very dramatic. So I'll apply that, and that's my finished image. So there we have it. That's how to use a range of different brush skills in Affinity Photo to create this really cool scattered portrait effect.